Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Let's Talk Tactics. I'm your host, Zach Burrell.
Hey, I'm Danylboone.
And this week, Locke was unable to make it. He has some work obligations that are working him late into the night, so we don't have him. However, we do have a great guest this week. This is LazarusAjin. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. A bit nervous because of the experience, but thank you for having me here today.
You'll be all right. So Lazarus is probably one of my most loyal Twitch viewers. That's how I originally first met him, and
Yeah.
he's always around talking about PvP and stuff. He's in the PvP servers, kind of all over the place. Let's hear a little bit about you, because you kind of have what I think is one of the more impressive stories when it comes to PvP. So you play primarily on the JP server, is that correct?
Yeah, I currently hold two accounts on the JP server. I have one where I start with a Glishella banner, and it's like kind of funny when I saw the global one, but oh my god, it's already there. No,
Yeah,
I'm
right.
not really rehearsing, but I felt a bit old when the banner came out
I
on
felt old.
global.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, old in the way that I did expect to be playing that much when I first started the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I recently made one just to try out the new Lila out because I was curious about the calculator sub job, the combinations of her jobs, and has been doing pretty well actually, probably better than my Glishello one if you compare the same time frame, because Lila's fuck is really good, she's really versatile. It's like Udira, but slightly better.
Ooh,
So
that's gonna hurt some
she's a
feelings.
great, yeah, she's a great starter unit for sure. She's like the if any example, the current sword map that came with her and the new free unit, I managed to clear it more consistently with the Lila account, even though it's like has an 89 mount with leather armor tanking for everyone. Lila just like obliterates most of the map turn two because of the AoE. So Monty just has to tank like a couple lightning element people. So he's like,
Which
oh,
seems good.
yeah, even Mont can do that. And Lila just heals like 3k a heal if he's on the stars.
And this is on an account
Because
that's like what, 2 weeks old, 3 weeks old, something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. I also helped that the new Esper for her is really is really like
Oh,
tailor made.
Typhoon, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, so
So
like that Esper, if you go for Lily, you have to pull that one just for her because she's really gonna benefit from it.
right, right. Yeah, I think Locke had mentioned that during one of the previous casts, was that like if anybody wants to get into the game right now and like start pretty solid with like PvP and even like farming and stuff, is just aim for whoever the current unit is, pull them, and then just buy all their shards and get them maxed out to like start out. 'Cause it sounds like that's what
Yeah,
you did with Glaciella, right, with your first account.
yeah. I remember I did a couple mistakes with Glishella because I was so excited to have her. I kept pulling on the banner to rush shards, even like I always had the idea that I have to save shards, Visor for the shards that come with shop. Or of course, I had the point of story, point of content, and I always kept handy like a couple, like 6k every day, even though I was trying to pull the what's left, just to buy like Whimsy shop because Whimsy shops were worth like with the three
Right.
shards. But I kept like being really excited pulling for Ghost Shell. I got like really lucky because I got two dupes, so
Oh
kind of
man,
paid
so
off. In the,
so paid off
yeah,
nicely there, speed wise.
yeah, and I got kill free, which like I finished like 2 weeks ago, and she's actually wrecking stuff. I also did the mistake of raising Loela because I was a man of science at the time. So
Oh
I was
jeez.
like, oh, I have like this all wasn't one of the reasons I pulled actually. I was really adamant not pulling, but my guild actually want to know about the MR because oh my gosh, she looks so
My
cute.
guild wants to
Maybe,
know, so I'm gonna
yeah,
build it as a free to play
yeah.
player. Wow.
Yes, and like I had the mindset that JP was just like a transition till Good Banner came out and I could hop in the global
Right.
for the backstory of of the game. I started on global during the first Texas banner. I
Hmm.
got both Sid and Ramza to 89, but eventually I felt that my account had a lot of wasted potential because the way I managed it as a new player, I had like no modifications, so I did a lot of dumb stuff like waste a lot on guild barracks and do necessary pulls.
Hmm.
And then up I saw, oh, this account really isn't going further. unless I wait like 6 months for the visual safe. But I saw that JP was ending the anniversary and was inter with Glishella, and she was a Pierce unit, which we didn't have a we don't have a lot we didn't have a lot of in either server at the time. We
For
only
Pierce
had
resistance,
like
you mean, right?
yeah, we only had like Elded and Aileen on global, and the JP we had like Victoria too. It was before
Right.
Victoria was released.
Yeah, so I mean, you started kind of nearby to the first class match, which is what we wanted to talk about this week. As long as we follow the schedule of JP, which for the most part we have followed, this coming week should be the first class match.
Yeah,
And I think that even though we don't know for a fact the rules are going to be the same, where it's going to be 540 costs on the same map and everything, I think it's still going to be useful to start prepping now. And at least talk about cost as a concept, whether or not it's actually 540, which I mean, I'm sure it's going to be, but even if it's not, like we can at least get kind of ideas behind how to build teams around cost. And that's why we have you here, because like you were saying, you started around this time, and you also played through all the class matches, so you kind of have gotten that experience of making sacrifices to build based on cost. So, the first map will have a cost of 540. Now, for some context on what that means, the premium units like Super Stern, Gilgamesh, and Thancred all have a cost of 100. My handy dandy account will tell me that almost almost all of the URs have the cost of 80, except for Victora, Mashari, Eileen, Engelbert, and Whisper. I don't have Delita, but I assume he's 80, just like the rest of them. And I also don't have Glaciella or Lastwell, but I think they're all 80. Do you guys have an idea about that? If not, that's fine. But
I'm sure the Glacial is also 80
okay.
because of,
Yeah, she is.
and
Then for MRs, most of them are 60. Salir is 65. And then a couple of them are 50, like Seymour, Tyrell, Gefgarian, all the free ones, actually. And then, like, Grace. Grace is 50. That's kind of sweet to know, in case you have to cut 10 points somewhere, but you want to keep a healer. Then you get to SRs, which are 40 and less. So, like, those may become relevant in future ones where it's more restrictive. But to be honest, like, 540, I had a team, I've said this anecdote before, Victora, Miranda, and Rain, with UR Espers, which also have costs associated with them, and UR Vision cards. And I was only 20 points off. And if I changed one of my UR cards to an MR card, that was 540. So, Daniel, you've been looking a little bit at the costs, right? And kind of like sort of thinking about teams a little bit. And you've seen similar?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, you would think, based off like the varying costs of the URs, that like you could find the similar trend in the Espers and the Vision cards, but it looks like I looked at limited cards like Cyanobelv, like Death Machine stuff. They're 70, the same as like the other UR Vision cards,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks like the Espers are 40 around the board as well. So that's interesting.
It looks like they're exactly by rarity. So it's 40 for URs, 30 for MRs, and then it looks like 20 for SR and below, which I don't think there's anything less than an SR for Espers. And then Vision cards, so it's kind of easy to figure out your team. And all you have to do if you wanted to check the cost of the units or cards that you do have is just go down to the sorting at the bottom and change it from level, rarity, whatever you have it on, and just look for the cost toggle. And you can start planning now. Now, Lazarus, what team exactly did you use for the first class match, and like why did you choose what you chose? Besides being limited to like a 2-week account.
yeah, I had Glaciella because it was the account crutch, so she had to be in the team.
Okay.
I was working on Loretta because she was the next most available unit at the time. That wasn't like really luck dependent on my head, but I also had to spend like 15k to get a copy of because of the price of my guild. So yeah, I should have spent the 50k on trying to get Laswell, but hey,
Maybe.
we all have regrets, but we can't really. We have to work before a given. So and as for my last unit, I had to use a very versatile unit, and the one I chose for the first class was Naya because I had worked on her for the story grind because it's really important to have healer, and so much so my Glaciella had 97 fate, so just so Naya could like spam heal on her, and she would keep me alive. And I just like when I heard that was the rank defeat, I rushed the awakening and grinded Naya to as much as close as to a high level could. They just barely managed to scrape by with our 89 Naya by the time. So
Now,
my team was
how high did you end up ranking at the end? So I know there's a ranking system. Like what,
yeah,
like in terms of tiers, how far were you at the top?
the first class match I got only to silver, like silver 3. Like I just barely made up above bronze, but I just had like one functional unit because Noela didn't have a bow, didn't have like anything. Like she was just there to like do 500 damage to finish someone off with sharpshoot, and that was about it. That was her faction. So like she was the what's the called the
Mascot?
yeah, the mascot.
She's like Fina.
Yeah. And Naya was really useful actually because she had full life. So
Right.
even if like I lost Glaciella and Naya has 4 move, that's also not another important thing. So
you essentially had Naya and 2 Glaciellas.
Yeah.
Is what your team was.
Some units like since they were like 3 move, they could even reach with ranged attack Naya, so she could just full life and run away, and then Glaciella would come back and try to revert the match. And since it was the first class match, a lot of people were like whales at the bottom, so I got my account as really handed to me at the first class match.
And the fact the fact that you performed at all, though, I mean, it's pretty impressive. Like I said, like that's not a lot of time in this game to develop an account. So like finding wins and success in a ranked system is still pretty impressive. But here, let's take a look at the map real quick. This is going to be the map for the first one, as long as it's the same as JP, as we said. I just want to make sure that caveat's out there. This was one of the earlier guild maps where the spawns were like here, here, and here. I think were the 3 spots, and then across the way as well. Are the spawns the same as they were in guild battles, or do you have kind of more options in the live version?
Yeah, the default ones were the same, but you could get a couple more options, as in you could get the unit closer in the middle. So instead of them being like one space away, you could like group them up
like
a bit
here?
more. No, as in the default position could like make the 3 together. Like if someone used Blizzard on you would
like this.
Yeah, you could group them up a bit more. You could like also line them up in like 3 in an I formation, a bit closer to one of the pillars to enter the square in the middle. And if I remember correctly, that was like a 2 square formation, really close out, really far out for the left side, like the right side, like two squares where you could put 2 units really at the front, like a bit above this square.
Like kind of like
a bit
here?
Above. No, by the side, like near the other pillar.
Like
this, around there.
Okay.
Like 2 squares. You could put 2 units there.
For those medi bombs.
Yeah, for medi bombs for sure. Now speaking of medi bombs and like what we think, so when this was the guild map, teams that were successful, I mean at the time they had artificial like modifiers to make certain teams better. But I remember I used Victora, and I would always spawn her here. She would run into the middle. She would live both of the gunners, and she'd kill everybody. What teams were successful at the highest ranks of the class matches for this one?
As I said, I was a silver rank, but I decided to, because of the podcast, talk with a couple of my GP veterans, the people that have helped me in the server, and they gave me great insights on the teams that they fought, because they ended in pretty good spots because they did PvP before the class match.
Right.
So
what did they say?
One of the people I talked with used Victoria, and he used a Victoria, Orlando, and Killfit comp, I think.
Oof.
And the one with bells was, I remember correctly, was Orlando. Victoria had the seed TMR, I think, for the AG and the damage reduction from both barrage, and Killfit had like Solaris TMR. And he said he used to start at the line, like at the I said to you, the triple, no, the other one, near the other side. Yeah, he started there.
Okay.
And what he would do is use first turn he would use the barrier, but not move much with Victoria, and then he would use the attack buff and move ahead with Victoria, so she could idolize the barrier, and then hopefully Dragon Drive someone after that. As while Sid would go by the side and try to hit anyone. He would also use Battle Wise, so Sid could jump between the gaps, and Killfield would just do Killfield stuff with
Yeah.
yeah, with Shield of Staves and Winged Staff, so she had really good mobility.
So one thing I will say though, Victora can't use the Thunder God's Cape. I was double checking on my phone, so it's got to be that Sid had that then, right? And then Bells would have been on Victora.
Yeah, I think I got that. Yeah, I think that was
Okay.
it. I might have.
It's mostly besides the point. I was just making sure that we didn't. I just wanted to address that because I in my head I was like, I don't think she can put that on. Because I definitely would do that more.
Yeah, I was checking that too.
But yeah, so it looks like just like Warriors, Knights, Red Mage, Gilgamesh,
okay.
stuff like that. Okay, I just want to confirm that though. Okay, but generally though, that's kind of something I was gonna predict anyway. Was that units would jump 2, because Killfay can give herself jump 2 with her winged staff, and then also Victor just naturally, Sid with Battle Wise, like you said, can just hop over. Whereas if you use units with 1 jump, they're gonna get stuck in these little choke points right here. And then, depending on how the other units move, that could end up with AoE, which I actually think Ildira would be good on here, too. I know, Daniel, you were talking before the cast about, you were thinking about potentially using her.
Yeah.
Is that mostly because of the height, or just because she's a good unit?
Kind of both. Pretty much my experiences with her in the different like PvP maps and stuff. She definitely fills that spot in my roster. Where I might be lacking since I don't have like Victoria, for instance.
Right. I'm gonna drop this stream real quick. Okay.
As for the units, you said like Udira was a good one, also because of the herb LB and how close units would start.
Oh,
so
that's true. Yeah.
What people would do is like rush all of the DPSs to one side and then have Udira LB then close to the enemy, and then the DPS would like use a AoE or use the strongest move to nuke someone out of the game real quick if your opponent moved in the wrong direction.
Yeah, because I think with... Wait, what's that?
Like, I remember seeing a lot of Barrage Federico with Udira, and also, what's her name? Medina and Udira.
Oh, sure, pluming. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, one thing I was thinking is, I want to use Frederica. I have her leveled now. I just got to work on her Espers a little more, and her Resonance. But she's been kind of fun, even with her, like, level 1 abilities mostly, and, like, 7 Resonance on her Esper, whatever it was. She was still doing some work. Yeah, if you use Ildira and you just get to move up, don't use a move, that's 20 CT saved, plus the, was it like 60 she gives or something like that? It's like 40 plus 20, yeah. or is it 80 total?
It's 40 plus 20 for the level multiplier bonuses, right, that you get.
So, like, yeah, you could just walk up, do nothing, Ildira LB, and then you're across that whole map, because that is a very small map if you can move with jump 2, so... That's interesting. I'm gonna have to try that. I actually don't remember the exact height on her LB, but I think it's pretty forgiving.
Another good strategy I saw was with Quicken Medina. Like, they would use a buff with Medina and then quicken her. So she, like, 2 quickens in Medina. Usually like was like Gilgamesh Medina and another quick bot, probably right. Phoebe because of her low cost. Mm-hmm. Like, you buff Medina's magic with something, then
Gilgamesh
get her
GMR.
with...
No, she can't use that, but...
then cast the quicken on her beforehand, and then she would poison mist to the other side to get more distant travel, and then use Cosmopool to the enemy team, and probably try to wipe out as many people as she could.
That reminded me of Snacko. Snacko's not playing anymore. He's got some life stuff going on. But he would do so many Medina poison misplays, Stern poison misplays. That man loved his poison mist.
Yeah, good times.
Yeah, no, I could see doing that. I mean, you only need like 1 quicken too if you did that. Like, I think you could get away with maybe having someone else buff her and then just, move
Yeah,
poison, miss,
I
quicken.
remember seeing a video like at the very end of the class match where someone waited so hard for Shakal. They got his TMR before the class match ended. I think so. Like in the last day, he just went
Who's TMR?
Shakal. His TMR gives a 100% magic boost to a ranged unit. The new mage
Shakal.
from Golga.
Is that
Golga, the mage,
yeah?
the Thunder mage from Golga story. The one,
Oh, Skull. Okay,
yeah,
yeah. The name is
his,
very different
his,
between the two servers. I
yeah,
was very thrown off.
exactly, yes. His TMR is like a ranged buff to magic. It's like 100% magic for 3 turns, and he would like buff Medina with the third unit, and then just poison mist quicken you match for like 6k damage on the enemy team.
Jeez.
That's pretty significant.
As,
That's actually
with Fryevia, though, Fryevia has a TMR with a really high magic buff as well. And if you use Emerald Echo, you can make it last 2 turns. That could be a thing for us to do.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
that's
probably
something
probably more reliable as well.
That's I'm glad that we kind of touched on that, like how small the map is, and like how pretty much like even back when we were doing guild battles on this map, like it was like second turn engagement kind of thing.
Mhm.
And then so yeah, that's definitely something to consider. Is just like how quickly things will happen, and like try to, you know, like we've covered before, like get your like first turn strategies like down. And that's kind of leads into something else. Like this is the first, like one of the first times, like we kind of have like a redemption where like the guild battle map that we used to have, we can finally do something manual with, you know.
Right? Like we can go get our revenge on all the times we didn't get 6 stars. Like, well, this is what would have happened if I was in control. No. But yeah, and also it's worth mentioning and again reiterating that 1 turn of buffs versus 2 turns of buffs can make a big difference. If you want to do, if you're very used to doing like barrier buff on everybody with like a purify or something plus a haste, like you got to pick one, right? Either do less damage or take more turns. Like obviously saying it like that, I want to take more turns, but those are real considerations if you're going to be engaged after like only on the second turn.
Yeah.
And also know that you can do that to other people. So if you see that they have a unit that typically wants like say 2 turns of setup just because they're using whatever they have, maybe they haven't skewed their account towards PvP like we have, you can take advantage of that. And I think some of those, we've talked about playing the player versus playing the game sometimes. I think that's something that could be valuable for this.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those maps where it's kind of I've heard like mixed reviews. Like some people hate it, maybe a lot of people hate it. A lot of people like didn't really have a problem with it. I don't know, depending on what units they had. But it's one of those maps where you definitely have to make a decision. Like, are you going to take the high grounds, you know, against Anakin or whatever, or are you going to spend that spend a second turn like buffing, you know?
I mean, the map is like depends really on each team because, as I said, the guy I said is a breezy team. Like Sid, Kilfit, Victoria was a bit rushy, but he built his Victoria.
She could be built bruisery for sure.
Yeah, he beat like really tanky, like a lot of slash resistance and like using golem for the added bulk. He didn't use self-sacrifice. He was using HP up. So he did in the way that the team could take the most blows he could because of the quick nature of the map. And if the map was like the team of the opponent was a turtle team, he could also benefit from it because of how Kilfer can stack buffs like protect and shell with white mage on the team that he used. So to mention the second person I talked about, he used mainly Agres, Kiton, and someone else. I think it was Ayaka, and he tried to use CC plus Dreamforce. And in this class match in particular, I feel that speed is actually a really important stat, even though you can turtle, because if you go turtling, you're probably not gonna move, but you're also gonna.
It's hard to turtle on such a small map, right? Like there's not a whole lot of place to run. So
I kind of
what were you gonna say, Daniel?
I kind of have more of a basic question. It was something that was covered a little bit earlier, but maybe might be relevant to other people who don't really know much about class match. So when you go into class match, are we going to be able to see our opponents like an arena ladder, or is it a blind queue like the free match?
It's the same matchmaking we have for regular life
Okay,
PvP.
that's what I expected, but
You're gonna have to set up the team. You have the option to turn on the times 2 times 1.4 and the auto
okay,
or not. You can have to make sure of that. And for the time being, you also got to reposition every time, but eventually they
yeah,
update with even in the class match you save the position on the map. Like, so if I went to the arena map we have right now, I put them in the setup position, and then I was gonna play a private match with Prodigy. The position would remain even though it's not the new map on the arena.
If
yeah.
only,
So
man. If only we had that.
yeah, I know it's a really big, especially since it's global. For some reason, randomly crashes when it loads the live PvP formation. Like I never had that on JP, so I don't have any idea why global has it. But hey, ask Gumi. I'm not here to answer that.
So I think that's definitely like it's a big deal, being able to know versus not knowing, like what kind of match you're going into as far as like building for it, you know. Like we've seen that even in arena, but also like in the tournament plays, like in recent tournaments, or at least one, like we could kind of anticipate what our opponent was bringing. So I think that's going to play a big part in the outcome of these class matches.
I mean, especially the
Yeah,
last tournament, like it was banned pick phase. Like we knew the exact team. We didn't know what
Yeah,
gear they were bringing or vision cards, but we still knew what they were, and like that tells you what kind of damage output they have. Whereas this time, yeah, you got to build a lot more generally. Like there
so
may be some teams that don't care and they just build full speed and they just want to bomb you on turn 1 or 2 with like quicken and stuff. But there's going to be those other teams like the Bruiser ones we talked about where you want Odin, Death Machine, that sort of thing, because you don't know if it's going to be Slash or. It sounds like this map might have a lot of missile and pierce. So building
Priest,
the classic
Priest,
Whisper slash Magic build might not work.
Priest not so much because Gloshella was recently somewhat new to JP, and even though a lot of people had more than the average unit, Laszlo also was like really loved at the time. Like he still is. He's still one of the favorite FFB characters.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a pretty even split on the banner consumption. And since the map eventually geared towards like Bruiser plus quick and reinforce and gunner sniping, like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of teams were just like Lucia, Frederica, and then Ayaka or a quicken unit, so they could like get as much mileage of the range. And Luciello has a crippling projectile weakness, so she was sadly not very good in this class match.
Sharpshoot. Goodbye.
Yeah,
With Frederica.
yeah, she can't like stand seeing Frederica.
Yeah, so when I said Pierce, though, like I was talking Victora too, because I think uh, the global server, I feel like, has shown a little more love towards Victora than I think it seemed like JP had, at least at the time. Part of that being the advantage of us knowing what's coming and kind of what to plan for and what's not coming, which is Pierce resistance for a long time. So I think a lot more people invested in her. Would you say that holds some weight to it as well?
Yes, definitely. I think Victor has been. I have seen a lot of people talking about Victor, which like surprising since Victor is kind of dead on GP right now. Even though she's still a solid unit, she has the cost 70, good stats, good jobs,
Yeah, I think that
and all
cost
that
70
stuff.
is a real thing, right? It's like that's
Yeah,
something to consider for sure. It
and JP hasn't really like done much with like stuff like the Turing crafting on live PvP, at least not much that has been publicly. I
mhm.
know that there's a circuit for live PvP. Like I linked recently I saw the SSR only tournament for that a lot of live PvPers did for JP,
Right.
but but I haven't seen really like a lot of love for some units that Global has given, certainly. Like for once, I see more Yermas on JP than I see on Global because Yerma has a way
we
to
got we
stack
got
a
to tell
lot of
we got to
mileage.
tell Merlot he can
Yeah,
take
he
over.
has like he has like a way to stack some projectile resistance without compromising so much of her kit, and that makes her very valuable on some maps and metas, like the dreaded CM3 map. Such a hate bomb for that map. And Yerma on global right now is pretty much missing in action. She just disappeared after Mount and Lucia. Mount stopped being used because of Lucia, and other units like Egress became a thing. But on
Yeah.
JP, I see a lot of love for her.
Being a wind unit on the global server is pretty rough, it feels like, because not only have we gotten all the same units that JP did in terms of like normal releases, I mean, Fryevia, while she doesn't exist as commonly to maybe affect the meta that much, she is another ice unit. And we also didn't get like we didn't get Summer Lilith. We didn't get who's the other one? The not Summer Katone comes later, but there were Mashri.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, Christmas Mashri would be a fire unit who would help keep ice units in check. Then there was the Ramada, who something I don't know what Ramada was, but between not having one less fire unit to control ice units and also one additional ice unit, it feels even like really bad to be a wind unit on global. So I could see that being another reason Yerma's kind of fallen out of grace.
I mean, just correcting, Lilith just came before the class match too, because she came after.
Oh, for sure.
Cacao. Yeah.
I just mean in general, like moving forward, like it's worse to be wind on because there's not like a earth unit to beat up on, like an additional one that's used.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, one other thing is, I think Yerma was kind of relegated to that realm of like you level her for her TMR, because her TMR is pretty nice. But yeah, the unit herself isn't too super crazy. I would like to see someone use her though. I don't think I've faced her really at all in live PvP, like maybe once or twice, but not often at all.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, what?
No, yeah, I mean, Yerma's a unit that the niche of her is being a somewhat offensive support on the slash side, because Victoria can be a somewhat support on the pierce side, because you can like do some control with steal time, get some evade with shadow cast. Yerma is basically that on the slash side with like and sub job.
Right. And less movement, less jump, so
yeah, she has less jump, the same movement because she also has teeth lore.
Yep.
But when she's using the projectile resistance passive that makes her so bulky versus that type, she loses on damage and HP because of the slots, because she wants the thief lore. So that happens that Yerma becomes not as versatile as Victoria or like even Vinera with Chief Subjob can be, which makes her fall out of favor for a lot of people in global.
Yeah, I've definitely seen Yerma a lot more around the time she came out than now. Like she was one of the earliest answers to an invasion team, especially with her TMR. But now that there's more answers, I don't know if that's a reason or if it's just because of the initial hype of her. But yeah, we don't really see her too much.
Yeah, because like who came out after Yerma? That was like, must have been around. Was that actually Katone?
I lost track.
Yeah, I forget.
It was Yerma, Tactic, Stinketon, I think.
Okay, that's an interesting one. Yeah, they kind of go in like an element order. If you look at the releases, it's like they release a unit and then it's like the counter to the unit right after, and the counter to the unit right after. Now, are there any? So you had mentioned you used Naya, kind of out of necessity more than anything. But are there units other than say Phoebe, that you would recommend looking into using for the map, whether they be MR, SR, or otherwise?
Grace, definitely. Grace for the resistance to several types makes her very good at the unpredictable nature of class matchmaking, because you have to really gear right just about to face a general comp. So Grace with those 35 resistance across the board plus the elemental resistance makes her really nice to tank. I have seen some really like I have seen even Ravies being like I saw a lot of on CM1 only, because she could have evade with the chief's job, and also do Steel Heart on top of having Mortal Spirit.
Right.
So she was just a big nuisance for projectile for physical teams because of how bulky she was to that. And if you try to drain force her with Keton, or you had to either stop her first, wasting a stop on a tank,
Mhm.
or you would get charmed on Keton, and then Keton would reinforce the enemy
Stop
team.
your own unit. Yeah.
Because she was so evaded, so even the enemy team couldn't hit her.
So
She was an interesting tech for that.
I have a quick question about that then, about Steel Heart. So kind of around here, it's kind of made a splash that you can turn off abilities to prevent your units from using abilities while charmed. Is that something in JP, and was that used during class matches at all, or is that something that people don't even really think about in JP? The turning off abilities? Okay.
Yeah, that was once the text, like I remember seeing like very early on, like the guys on my guild were, hey, don't forget to turn off skills, and we're like, why? Well, I'm playing manually. Oh, because you're not gonna like forget charmed. And then I was like, not gonna happen to me, and they happened to me. Like, oh, okay, I get what I mean now. I'm gonna turn off.
Right. It's like, all right, I guess I gotta do it. And that's still a thing, right? Like that hasn't been like patched out or some weird nonsense.
It's still a thing.
Okay.
So, kind of going back to the talking about Grace, and I'm sure I'm going to regret this at some point afterwards, but one of the best counters to her is kind of something that I'm curious to see.
No, I was kidding.
And this is in terms of resistances in general, is like not just Gilgamesh, but like anyone with like the ninja sub job, like just having an elemental or just having an attack like Drain Force or Anton or
any of the
like
tons,
any of the ones.
Hotan,
Yeah.
Anton, Doton, yeah.
It's rare to see that, if at all, that isn't under the ninja sub job in particular. Like you have to be like sub to ninja to be able to use that, to have access to it. But I've heard at least in higher level guild versus guild that Gilgamesh in particular, like people are using his Hamon from his like winged one sub job to kind of counteract these anti slash or missile or whatever, probably mostly slash team comps. So I'm kind of curious to see if we're going to see some of that in class match, depending on what level you're at.
This is Hamon that ignores. Wait,
yeah,
what?
it's magic based, and it's like one of those ninja attacks.
I'm seeing that it's a magic attack on his sub job.
It's magic based, but it's like an ice attack, you know.
I think he makes it just like it doesn't have an attack type.
I understand what he's saying. That's just not what Watt Calc says. I wonder if they have it wrong then, because on here it says it's an actual magic attack. Like I know it's based off magic, but it actually says magic attack defense.
I see that. Yeah, that's weird.
Interesting. I wonder if he has Osmos Force. That absorbs TB. Okay, well, I guess I would double check that in game before using that as like a super reliant thing. But no, your point stands. I mean, knowing the ninja thing, or having Drain Force or anything to beat people like Grace or Whisper that are giving you trouble with resistances for sure.
Not to mention like having the Decider Fate buff for like accuracy against like dodge builds and stuff, you know. So now definitely curious to see how that'll play out if people use that.
Yeah, I'm curious. Oh, sorry.
I remember that Grace started falling off when Shell came out because of Shell's Imperial, and Imperial really cuts through the elemental resistance, which is a big factor on tanking attack types. So like a minus for the elemental resistance already makes a Whisper bleed, you know, if you can say like that. Even for a support attack.
What did Shell have? Was it actual a skill in peril, or was it did she have like a TMR ability?
She has Imperial because she's a Green Mage main.
So I think Imperial only goes down by 25% though, right?
No, it's 40% at max level. It's 38%, something like that. So
this is another thing I checked the other day, and I swear it said 25 because I double checked on Helena's. Look real quick. Does Ayaka have Imperil?
No, she
I
doesn't.
don't know.
She's got Dispel because it's a sub job, right? Here, let's go look at Helena real quick. Let's say, 'cause this is another one where like the other night I was saying the same thing you were, where I was like, oh, Imperil's crazy, it's like 38% or whatever. And then I looked and it was not. Yeah, it just says decrease all elemental resist by 25% for 3 turns at max. So it's still good. Obviously, it's still very good because it's all elements, so it doesn't matter who else is on your team. But it's not quite like a Cosmo Plume or a Kilfei reducing magic resist, that kind of thing.
Yeah. That kind of makes me remember like that question from like one of our earlier episodes where you were like, which job do you think is kind of underrepresented? And I was like, green mage, because
Green Mage is up there, yeah.
the bar elements like spells are amazing for defense. Like, so
Mhm.
I'm still waiting to see a viable, like a green mage, um, like a character that makes that aspect of green mage shine, you know?
I think it'll be if there's like a particular meta that you expect to see like all dark units or something, and you have a dark green mage. But it's so, that's the only problem with those abilities, I think, is it's so matchup dependent because you can only protect from the element that the unit is. So like ice units have Bar Blizzara, and like
Yeah.
wind ones have Bar Arrowa or whatever it's called. So it gets a little weird in terms of being useful across all situations, but definitely agree. I think something about Green Mage would be more like the deprotected D shell. It could catch people off guard. Like if you stack that with like a crush armor, like that could be pretty insane. I think. Wait, would they stack? Because they're both defense downs. So actually, I don't know if they would or not.
Um, the
No, because the one is PR, the other is defense. So they're in spirit. So there are 2 different types.
Well, deep
As
D
long as
shell is, but deep protect would be defense down. So it'd be
yeah.
crush armor and deep protect both are down.
Oh, they don't. Yeah, they don't.
Yeah, so
They
I don't
don't.
think they stack. Okay.
The same
Darn.
kind of like, but if you do like D shell, D protect, they both stack. So you
Right.
can
Oh yeah,
use
those
both.
two would. Yeah. So I guess in that case we start getting back into like Kotetsu plus crush armor range where you're doing defense down slash down, which that's more obvious. But so what do you have any other kind of say someone is getting into this is going to be their first PvP experience. They find they're motivated to come fight because it's ranked and really good reward system, which we didn't even go into too much detail. But that one I think we're going to leave to see what they actually give us. Do you have any advice for players who maybe only have a week to prep, but any prep that they can be doing now to get ready for it, or things to consider before starting?
Check your MR vision cards. They are really important for most players because they are a source of easy ways to get resistance, to get stat bonus that your cards usually give at a high investment. And if your account hasn't bigger towards a PvP, they're gonna be your only source of good values on those. Like I haven't been using Clean Cinnamide criminally way too much because of the projectile resistance and
Say cleansing the mind.
much, yeah, the one
Okay.
with 15% projectile resistance. It does seem like much, but the
It adds up.
15% it adds up really quickly. It's like if your Frederica was gonna do 4K on you, you're gonna take 600 HP less, which is like what makes from only a bulky glacial to survive to a more DPS one focus to survive just as little of health,
Right.
which is enough to make her at least do a last ditch effort to do as much damage as possible to the enemy team. And forces the second shot from Frederica, which is really annoying because of how quick Luciella can be.
I think one thing
Just
I
to
would
set,
say. Oh, sorry.
just to set an example, also a couple espers like Cactuar,
I was about to
they
say
are
that.
they are pretty offensive, even and they really have good stats for the cost they provide. Even though like only has like 10, 11 AG, yeah, but sometimes if you play right, AG isn't really much of a factor. Like even though you can get auto matched in the agility, if you play your buffs right, the movement right, you can set up for really explosive turns. And having offensive aspects for that really help on the multiplier, for the damage.
those swings,
Uh,
man.
The
yeah,
swings.
the thing.
That used to be an emote on your Twitch stream. You see like an actual like swing. Like
that kind of swing.
I know it's not, but it's still funny. I think you also before we start talking on the cast, obviously we always talk about the topic a little bit. We try not to do like too much deep, so we actually say everything when we're on here. But you had mentioned the Cactuar Vision card too. You really liked, right?
Yeah, it's a personally favorite of mine. I even like so already used on Killfit because Killfit doesn't really care about the -5 defense because she has already so much defense, but she gets like almost 10 speed from it, like 6 speed, which is really good on a 10 key breezer. So if you pair with like a fast Esper like Shiva and give her a speed TMR, she suddenly can keep up with the most DPSs of the meta. So she doesn't get laps, so she gets chained. She can get faster than she can lap other tanks, which is really strong, and that makes Killfit a threat to be reckoned with. And not only Killfit, like any medium speed unit that if you see the Cactuar isn't gonna make them die because of the defense debuff, which is honestly not that big of a deal. Like when you think about it, it's only -5 death, which is like 5%.
And plus, we get 2 from guild
AV.
statues that help anyway. I think a lot of times when people think about like defense and things, they forget that they get that 2 from their guild statues if their guild's statue 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
So like it's actually only like -3 when you're mentally thinking about it, because like I feel like whenever I look at my units, I assume they're at 0. I'm like, all right, cool. I put on a plat robe, they're at 18, but like really they're at 20. So planning ahead that way, I think is it makes it even less of an impact for sure.
I think.
No, Daniel.
Sorry. I think probably, as usual, like one of the biggest things that are separating, or that are going to separate, like somebody just jumping into the scene versus somebody who's more prepared for, is just kind of the resources available. Like it would be awesome if everybody had the chance to invest in one Esper over another for one particular circumstance, but I think something that we're kind of running into now is like we're out of growth eggs for like these vision cards
problems,
that we're maxing out. So maybe not everybody has the chance to invest in lower rarity espers or vision cards, depending on
Leona's Castle.
Yeah, kind of like
Leona's Castle.
kind of like in tournaments where we're like, yeah, let's have MR lower tournaments, but that kind of seems to have favored whales that have the chance to actually build MRs.
I think MR cards might be a little different than that though. I think between the dupes, like if you're chasing a UR unit, even if you're free to play, like if someone drops like 40k on a banner, you're gonna get a lot of MR orbs and probably a couple dupes of MR cards along the way. So I could see that having like what's it called, the Iron Giant max, cleansing the mind, like these things might just happen passively, and even if they're only 3 stars and you max them out, it's still 60 out of 70, which isn't awful.
It's weird.
It's different. Like for a UR vision card, it's like 2 stars to 3 stars is absolute garbage, and then 3 stars to 4 only matters when you go 98 to 99. Really, like you don't get a lot of bonus after that 70 mark. But MRs, I've noticed are a lot better on their curve, where it's like I think it's like 40, 50, 60, 70 or something, and a lot nicer. So even if you can't max it, it's still way more useful than trying to use like a 0 star or a 1 star UR card if that's all you have. But just to bounce off what you said earlier too on the Espers, I was gonna say since you have like, what's today, Friday, so Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, say you have 4 days. I know not everybody buys like energy pots and stuff, but whatever you can do to maybe get like an additional Esper ready on whatever, it's only 3 units, right? So just like if you have that core team of 3 you expect to use, maybe get like 1 extra Esper option on each one of them while you're farming this week. Resonance wise, sorry. And then also look to see if there's any Espers that you could respec into, like it's 50 viz, but like you get 500 on the like each day. So maybe look into like more missile resist on an Esper that you didn't realize or something. Like something I might be doing is my Diablos might get respec to slash resist or something. But that's a lot more niche, but just like things about that things to think about like that moving forward.
Whoever has Mustadio is also a good debuffer.
Mustadio, sure.
Even if you got like LB4, even LB3, because of the jobs are gonna give a lot of the stats. So in LazarusAjin, they usually hangs in the back anyway. So because of that, you can afford to run a weekend Mustajo just for the crowd control
Yep.
that he provides, and that really makes him a bit of a wild card, if you can call it that, because he's another unit that you can run at relatively low investment for what you're getting.
And I think a lot of people might just have him passively too, because they went so hard on like the Tactics 2 banner that they went for their Agrius or they went for their Delita, got Mustadio along the way, and just kind of bought some shards for him. Even if he's not maxed, yeah, I think they'd have the ability to, even at 79, just to get the crowd control. I like that too. So Daniel, just one last thing for you. You were talking about the Esper options. You sound like you want to say something about that.
Yeah, so that's definitely something that I was thinking in terms of people jumping into class match versus people that are kind of more prepared for is like I would expect people to be spending their Magicite on the UR Espers as much as possible, if they had access to them, you know.
From the Heroic
So
injection of 80 XLs.
right, like just trying to play catch up or whatever, if they're maybe like newer to the game. So I think maybe we can see more of a variation with vision cards instead.
Yeah, I think vision cards going to be the difference for sure. And like, if you need to cut one UR unit, like maybe that becomes Phoebe, and then you can still use your UR cards if you have them. But like your 0 or 1-star Odin might become a 4-star Iron Giant or a 4-star Birth of a New Life, whatever your team needs. Which, by the way, people, don't sleep on Birth of a New Life. A, because luck helps you with accuracy. And B, that is a ton of health on whoever you put that on. So definitely don't sleep on that card, even if you're not using a full-on evade team.
I'm gonna also, because of how we talk about charm. Another card that's also interesting is charming tranquility, something like that.
Oh, the tranquil, it's something tranquility, yeah.
Fleeting tranquility, which
with Ramada and Lilith, that
I always
gives 15 HP to a party and also gives charm resistance to whoever equips it. So it's a pretty decent anti-cheese card you can use, even though you can just turn off the skills. But
I can see that being good for like the low bracket, right? Like until you hit gold or platinum or something, like put that on just in case. Well, wait, Daniel, what were you saying?
it was I always mix up cleansing the mind and fleeting tranquility, like in my head, like discreetly, like I know the vision cards like separately, but just like the wording like in my head, it's like fleeting the mind and cleansing tranquility.
Cleansing tranquility. All right, we're gonna have you name everything from now on. Oh, it gives 15% HP to the party too. That's pretty cool. I didn't actually know what the card did to the party, and it's kind of like sort of balanced attack and match. It's more attack, but interesting. Yeah, I actually the other night on stream I was doing a double quick and charm team just to try to troll people, and of course, the first person I ran into had Agrius, who can't be charmed from Steel Heart, and not deleted, but his other unit had Fleeting Tranquility on. I was like, are you kidding me? The one time I decide to do this like cheesy charm thing, he had both of that.
We were watching.
Yeah, which by the way, people, Agrius is very good against charm.
Just like inexplicable.
Medina has a small charm resistance too, so it makes it a bit annoying to get her.
Yeah, I think the only time I've ever seen her charmed was the most ridiculous situation I've ever seen, which was I Victra Elbeed in Agrius and my own Agrius, and both of them got charmed, which was just the most ridiculous. Like, it's on so resist by 50, so it's a 17% chance multiplied by faith. Victra's faith is 50, so plus 97, so it's like
I think it's 22%.
22, yeah, it's something like that. It's really low. Hit it on both of them. Oh man. But anyway, so Lazarus, any closing thoughts before we wrap up? Anything else you want to get out?
I wanted to mention a bit on my experience with class match 2, because it was just shortly after I think 1 month, roughly 1.5 months, and in that month, even though my account wasn't really geared for PvP because I was trying to play JP in general, so I had to gear toward PV and stuff like that. I still managed to get a good enough team in that span of time to get to Platinum Masters, which is like the rank before Masters, Diamond, which is the last tier. And it shows that even if you're not focused on PvP and you have a free-to-play account, if you just like manage your resources right, you can get a pretty solid team with what you have. You
And
can,
Shell.
yeah,
Because Shell comes out by
yeah,
that time, so
yeah,
anybody looking
Shell,
further, anyone who for some reason doesn't want to level Phoebe, go get yourself a Shell.
yeah, and she's on Howl's banner, which is an also awesome unit. So even if you don't get Shell, you can get Howlet, which is like just gonna you have kill feed problems, not anymore. Just put Howlet on the
Having
team,
kill
and the
feed problems, I
moment
feel bad for you,
yeah,
son.
yeah, the
Knew that was
moment
coming.
Howlet the moment Howlet see kill feed just erases herself from the game. She doesn't want to deal with him. Yeah.
and then he heals with it, right? Like it's that like weird deal ton of damage, heal it back type thing.
Yeah, it's like a 5 range move that heals you, buffs your magic penetration resistance for like 50, and
At
then
least
buffs
he's
your magic.
actually a mage with a 5 range sword attack. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, and then you get game trust as that mage sub job. So yeah, dude's pretty stacked on the skills.
Oh,
In
he
the
gets
range.
jamming thrust too. Oh man,
Yeah.
that's so good. Oh, don't talk about it. You're gonna make me. Anyway, all right. We gotta stop talking about Howlet.
Yeah, please.
And if you Prodijee can show the map too, real quick. So another thing important for class match too is that, as you can see, the cost goes for 500, and then it can be like, oh, it's only for the less. It's not really gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt. Like for the cost is the difference between using good espers, a lot of MR units, or like only MR cards on your team if you want to keep them as many MR units
Right.
as many MR units you want.
And the
For
spawns
the
are here,
cost,
right? It's like in this
yeah,
this spot, and then like these right here, right?
yeah, you have like 3 venues to engage the enemy, even though the middle one's the most common one. And as you can see, stuff like Drain Force don't work as well because of how irregular the terrain is. Like you can see, there's a lot of steps,
Right.
and Drain Force can't take any elevation. And to add some spice, the middle is full of crystals, but those crystals, they aren't your average ones. They give AP instead of TP. So you usually, if you rush them, you get a good advantage on being able to fire off more skills, get the healing, the small bravery boost, that stuff. But you also get to be more a bigger
Like
target for your
vulnerable,
enemy.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
more
nice though for
vulnerable.
it's nice for people though who don't have bells that can
Yeah,
sort of make up for it by picking up the AP. So if they have like an evasion unit but no bells for some reason, like I could see that being pretty good. Like you can
Yeah,
move up with somebody
yeah,
that casts Utusemi on it, and then if they don't have sharpshoot, then
I was waiting to say that.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I remember like it was one of my go-to strategy with Summer Live was just sitting on a crystal and then Sentinel so I could barrage the next 2 turns
right.
because Summer Live is a balanced unit. But yeah, you can take advantage of that with units that can increase the survivability for 1 turn, and
Mm-hmm.
then you can get the AP not only for your own sake because of the added cost, but to also not let the enemy take advantage of getting the AP.
Right. Denial. So I could
Yeah,
see
the
that being
denial
an
precisely.
argument for like Sentinel Miranda maybe, or Sentinel or like Paladin Miranda, Paladin Agrias, Paladin other people.
Not really gonna allow turtling because of how the map is vulnerable with the AP crystals. Like
Yeah, it incentivizes you to actually engage in the middle, whereas because your opponent's just going to get a lot of advantage from walking up if you don't do that.
So real quick,
yeah,
do the AP crystals not heal, or do they heal and
they heal a good amount of HP. Like they heal I think
okay.
30%, like the other crystals.
Yeah,
So
it's
like
So
I think it's instead of getting TP and bravery, I think you just get bravery and AP. instead. I think it's just switches which resource you get.
Yeah, you get healing, brave, and AP. Like you get 40 AP, something like that, which is pretty sizable. It's not something
Green means go. Go pick them up,
Yeah.
then go kill your opponent.
Pretty much. And then I'm also gonna say that don't really be if you're losing a lot, don't be demotivated by it. For once, the game is pretty forgiving. If you get a certain threshold, like the promotion matches before you get like a silver to gold or gold to platinum or platinum to master, you can't fall off the bracket. So if you get to the point you are promoted, you can lose as many times as you want. You won't fall off from the promotion as long as you win 2 matches in the span of 3 match in the three group. So you can just keep trying to improve your team, keep changing on the days that you won't really be punished for it. And remember that it's only 5 times a day, so you have to be a bit conservative on when to train and stuff like that. You can't really use the free matchmaking because of how they do retreat cost there, but learning the layout is still really important to know how your units are gonna move, just so you can squeeze the most out of the map before you can use your 5 orbs, because they're really variable since you can't restock them.
Yeah, so everybody who wants to get some of that practicing, come join the PvP Discord. It'll be linked down below, and we can set up some matches. Even if we don't have the map available, I imagine we will have them for friendly matches, but even if we don't, you can still at least practice teams, and we can set up restrictions. Be like, oh, you have to use this cost, and there'll be a lot of us that want to test as well, so definitely do that. You can come face Lazarus on his global account, or you can come face me or Daniel or anybody else in there. But yeah, Lazarus, thank you for joining us this week and offering tons of insight on what we should expect and kind of your perspective from the JP side. It was really nice to hear all that.
Yeah, I appreciate the chance.
We have been Let's Talk Tactics. I've been your host, Zach Burrell.
Danylboone.
And we will see you next time.